Thanks so much for joining us for another edition of KFFB's Open Mic program. We do have Senator Tom Cotton with us. And Senator, thanks for taking time and talking with us.
Thank you. It's great to be on with you.
A very disturbing report came out that you've issued a statement on, and that's the 12 detainees released from Guantanamo Bay have launched attacks against the U.S. Very disturbing for many Arkansans.
It is very disturbing, and this is one reason why I think it's so short-sighted to try to release yet more terrorists from Guantanamo Bay. I mean, of all those who have released, several hundred, almost a third, are suspected or confirmed to have returned to the battlefield. And now we know that at least a dozen have engaged in attacks against Americans that have resulted in the loss of American life. The people who are at Guantanamo Bay today, in particular, are not innocent goat herders. They are the hardest of the hardcore, people like Khalid Sheikh Mohammed, who was the mastermind of the 9/11 attacks. I have been to Guantanamo Bay. It is a modern, humane facility that is a critical tool in the war against terrorism. I think the only problem with it is that there are too many empty beds. We should be capturing more terrorists and sending them there for interrogation to help stop these kind of attacks against the United States. And that's what I'm working to do this very week as we debate the annual defense bill that would stop the president from releasing more detainees without clear understanding of the risk they pose and would prevent him from closing Guantanamo Bay.
Now, the president does have the power to release more of these prisoners?
He does, and he's continuing to do so. He released half a dozen just about a month ago, and he's continuing to look for more and more countries, some countries without adequate security and police and intelligence services to appropriately monitor these detainees. There's probably 6 or 7 dozen that not even President Obama's administration would release. That's who they want to move to the United States. I think it's the height of folly to move the worst terrorists to the United States. First off, Guantanamo Bay is not used as a propaganda tool in any real degree if you study the magazines that groups like the Islamic State and Al-Qaeda put out. But second, even if it were, and you move these detainees to, say, the Charleston Brig or a super max prison in Colorado or Kansas, terrorists would just start using those facilities as propaganda. We can't make decisions about the safety and the security of the American people based on what terrorists are going to say about it.
You're also demanding some accountability at the State Department for the Iran video edits. That's another issue. It's a pretty hot topic as well.
What the State Department has done in trying to delete unfavorable video from their archives is just one more example of the Obama administration's very unsettling pattern of deceit when it comes to the Iran deal. The last 3 years, the Obama administration said they pursued this nuclear deal with Iran after a new president was elected in 2013 in Iran, who they claimed was a moderate. We now know, based on the admissions of senior White House officials, that they pursued this nuclear deal from the very earliest days of the Obama administration with Iran, starting back in the 2009 to 2011 timeframe. That video that was deleted from the State Department archives actually exposed that from an interview back in 2013. I guess the White House and the State Department figured since senior White House officials are now admitting the truth, they might as well let the video come back out. I expect Congress is going to conduct oversight hearings on these because the pattern of deceit here is very clear, and we need to know if there are other misrepresentations, other omissions that the Obama administration has engaged in about the Iran deal. I can tell you personally, they're still not leveling with the American people about how much money Iran is going to get from this deal. It's very worrisome, but it's just part of a longstanding pattern.
Now, what is your thoughts on the latest with Iran? What's the latest going on with this entire talk?
Well, Iran clearly knows that President Obama and many other Western leaders want this nuclear deal more than they do, so they continue to extract a higher price. They held hostages that were not addressed in the deal last summer. We paid $1.7 billion in January for the release of those hostages. We also released duly convicted Iranian nationals in our own court system. They took our sailors and their boats hostage back in January as well. They continued to launch ballistic missiles in violation of United Nations Security Council resolution. Some of those missiles are stenciled, Israel must be wiped out, yet we continue to look the other way. Until we get serious about confronting Iran and their regional campaign of aggression and their support for terrorism, Iran is going to continue to extract even higher prices from us for what is a bad deal to begin with.
Now, the congressional delegation, you guys took a trip overseas. The 15th Asian Security Summit, what did you come from that summit? What did you learn?
Well, I traveled with John McCain and 5 other senators to Singapore to the Asian Security Summit, and I can tell you that almost every country with whom we met, countries from Northeast Asia like Japan and Korea, all the way around to countries in South Asia like India, are very worried about Chinese aggression in the region. In fact, there's a sense that China already has effective control of the South China Sea since they've been literally building islands out of the water there and then militarizing them with missile systems and radar systems and runways that can take Chinese fighters, aircraft, and Chinese bombers. All those countries are looking for someone to help lead the alliance to stop this kind of Chinese aggression, given the threat it holds to peaceful commerce upon which our economy depends so much. Yet the president and the administration is simply not putting the actual resources behind their rhetoric in supporting the region, and that's why China continues to probe on its boundaries and test our allies, and our allies are deeply rattled.
Oh, Senator, thanks so much for taking time and talking to us. What do we see coming up in the next few weeks here that's important for us to be watching for?
Well, we're going to be working on our annual spending bills. We'll work on the spending bill that funds our military. That's vital. It doesn't spend enough, in my opinion. The military needs more resources, but we've got a small boost, and we're going to try to add a little bit more in. Continuing to work on the annual defense authorization bill, which provides for the various policies, programs, authorities that our troops need to continue to keep us safe. There'll be some other measures that we're taking up, mostly against spending bills, which is an annual rite of passage in the Congress, if you will, every summer, trying to spend the taxpayer dollar in a wise fashion, which reflects the priorities of the people we serve, as opposed to letting the administration dictate all these decisions in one big massive bill at the end of the year.
Well, thanks so much for taking time and talking with us, and we'll keep folks posted with each of the updates that you do, especially on our website. As we just seen that the latest was talking about 12 detainees released from Guantanamo Bay, and that's been a lot of cooler talk over the past few months.
Well, I can imagine, because it's just symbolic of the folly of going forward with releasing even harder core terrorists from Guantanamo Bay when we already have a third of them suspected or confirmed of returning to the fight, and now at least a dozen confirmed of committing attacks against Americans.
We've been talking with Senator Tom Cotton here on KFFB's Open Mic. You can find this program at kffb.com. And Senator, thanks so much for taking time and talking with us.
Thank you.